Hello again, and welcome to Behind the Ballet. I'm Elizabeth Kaye, and today we'll look at another program that will grace American Ballet Theater's fall season. This one titled 21st Century Works, King and Ratmansky. From ABT's first performances in 1940, when it was known simply as Ballet Theater, the company has taken such great pleasure and pride in presenting works that illuminate the stunning scope of ballet and the astonishing facility of the company's dancers. During this fall season, as ABT continues that worthy and important tradition, this program will bring you Alonzo King's compelling Single Eye, a plotless work packed with meaning, and Alexei Ratmansky's On the DNIPRO, which tells a dramatic, specific story. Both works reverberate with emotion and possess a distinct spiritual dimension as they delve into and reveal the human spirit and soul. It's often said that a person can be born to dance, but I think it's safe to say that no one is born to be a choreographer. In a sense, a choreographer is akin to a poet and a sculptor. Just as a poet distills words to find the ones that are most evocative, so a choreographer distills ballet steps to vividly portray ideas and emotions. And just as a sculptor keeps carving away to create the shape perceived in his or her mind, so choreographers continually refine and sharpen the sequence and texture of movements they've devised for their dancers. The two choreographers whose work comprised this particular program were born and raised in disparate cultures, oceans apart. But one thing they have in common is that each man was guided by his parents early on into activities that would prepare them for the life they would lead when they found their calling. Alexei Ratmansky was 2 years old when his family moved from St. Petersburg, where he was born, to Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. There, he took gymnastic classes at the urging of his father, who'd been a gymnast champion as a boy, and was taken to concerts by his mother, who shared her love of classical music with him. Because of this, two of ballet's paramount features, music and physicality, became integral parts of his world at a very young age. Similarly, when Alonzo King was a boy growing up in Albany, Georgia, his father introduced him to yoga, and he took to it immediately. Yoga's perfect fusion of movement and spirituality would provide him with the two elements that would become his signature. For King, another vital influence came from members of his family who were leaders in the civil rights movement. His father, a successful businessman, was president of the Albany movement, which was the first mass movement in the United States to seek to desegregate an entire city. Many people King encountered in his youth subscribed to the nonviolent philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi. Alonzo attended meetings where participants were told, "Many of you will be hit, but you can't fight back." He saw that his parents were willing to die for what they believed in, and the depth of their commitment would mark him for life and become what he calls my tuning fork. Ballet came to him through his mother, who was a dancer. Watching her move mesmerized him. She taught him dance steps, and they danced together. Looking back on that experience, he says, "What more could I want? It was heaven." When it came time to go to college, he was offered scholarships at many universities, but by then he knew where life was taking him. After one semester, he left college, obtained a scholarship to the Alvin Ailey School, and danced with a number of companies before recognizing that his heart and his future lay in teaching and choreographing. In 1982, he formed his own company, Alonzo King Lines Ballet. As he began what would be his life's work, he found two elements missing in dance training and dance. As he explains it, one was the spiritual force. The other was a concept dear to him that he describes as "it's within you." With that in mind, he encourages dancers to find moves that come to them naturally and organically, for he is convinced that it's those intensely personal moves that come from within that are supercharged with meaning and potency. Yet though he wants his dancers to contribute to his choreography, his ballets, perhaps inevitably, are a reflection of their maker, a kinetic metaphor for a man who is a seeker, who has sought answers to the mysteries of life, and having found many of them, exudes a soothing sense of calm and peace. His work tends to be described as mystical and otherworldly, and it is certainly that, but it is also, as he is, as tethered to the natural world as are trees or grass. To give you a sense of this, I'd like to share with you something King recently told an interviewer. This is a quote. "Truth and beauty are revelatory. The fact that they exist, that the sun is shining, giving its warmth, creating photosynthesis, causing things to happen, life to go on. That is the first exemplar for the artist. That's what we are. We are billions of suns." Single Eye is the first work King has created for ABT, and now that you know a bit about him, it will likely not surprise you that his title for this ballet is taken from the Sermon on the Mount. "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." The music is by King's frequent collaborator, Jason Moran, a jazz artist and composer with whom he works closely. Moran's music veers from taut and driving to sensually melodic and sometimes brings to mind soft sounds of raindrops lightly falling on a summer day. At times, the music fades to be replaced by sounds that resemble the faint rumbling of traffic, its man-made noise impinging on the natural world. When you watch Single Eye, you may get the sense that the dancers are looking inward, moving in ways that suggest they are seeking to fathom answers to mysteries, answers that may be linked to the sky above them or the earth beneath their feet. The arresting shapes the dancers create are almost supernaturally fluid. Their arms float like water rippled by a gentle breeze. A dancer puts his hand to his ear, as if trying to discern something barely heard. He puts his hand to his mouth, as if silencing something he cannot yet repeat. Or is it something unspeakable? As the ballet progresses, we see myriad suggestions of the physical world. A silvery backdrop suggests a wall of ice. The golden lighting dappling the stage is reminiscent of the gloaming, that magical time of day when the world seems bathed in gold. King often speaks of the value of community, and Single Eye gives us a community of dancers, each moving in their own way, yet all of them seemingly enmeshed in a high common purpose. Perhaps they are adhering to one aspect of Alonzo King's stated credo, which he expresses like this: "Our work is to discover that there is an artist inside of us who is working on the masterpiece that all human beings are." Now, it's interesting to speculate on how different Alexei Ratmansky's life might have been, were it not for the fact that as a boy, he was in constant frenetic motion. It was this that prompted his parents to take 10-year-old Alexei to an audition for the Bolshoi Ballet School, not because he or they thought he would become a dancer, but in the hope that ballet lessons might dispel some of his overabundant energy. He passed the audition and soon realized that the school was where he wanted and needed to be. For the next 8 years, he remained there, studying classical ballet technique, acting, mime, character dancing, partnering, and piano. The ballet lessons were particularly rigorous, and when the boys practiced leaps and jumps, their teachers sought to increase their strength by making them attach little sandbags to their ankles. During his classes in music history, the students would often sit and listen to works by the great composers. Years later, Ratmansky would tell the New Yorker's Joe Nakachella, "That's when I started to visualize steps in my head, and I thought, this is something I can do every time I listen to music." He could not have known back then that those visualizations, replete with the way music and steps echo each other, were the beginning of his life as a choreographer. In 1986, he graduated from the Bolshoi School, but was not invited to join the Bolshoi's company. This was a bitter disappointment, though he would later say, I never was going to be a top dancer. My technique was not spectacular. He went back to Kyiv, where he joined the Ukrainian National Ballet. One of the company's dancers turned out to be the woman he would marry. Though she was not the greatest dancer, he was struck by her gorgeous legs and lovely pointed feet. He began honing the choreographer's multifaceted task by creating dancers on her, dances that taught him, among other things, how to highlight a dancer's assets and obscure their weaknesses. Soon he would be choreographing ballets for companies throughout the world. By the time Ratmansky came to American Ballet Theatre in 2009 to be the company's first artist in residence, he had acquired tremendous knowledge and expertise and become lauded for a style that rigorously upheld the traditions of classical ballet by using dance to tell a story and employing classical steps as essential tools, while also expanding the possibilities of what dance movement can be. His first full-length work for the company is the ballet you will see. The origins date back to 1930, when the Paris Opera Ballet commissioned a score from the composer Serge Prokofiev, whose brilliant, heart-rending score for Balanchine's The Prodigal Son had premiered the previous year. In that production, the role of the prodigal was danced by a Ukrainian-born virtuoso, Serge Lafar, who soon became Paris Opera Ballet's director. Working together, Prokofiev and Lafar conceived the ballet's libretto, which Lafar choreographed for the stage. He also danced the leading male role when the ballet premiered in 1932. Ratmansky's version of this work follows their original libretto and is danced, of course, to the Prokofiev score. The Dnipro is Ukraine's longest river, flowing as it does from Russia to Belarus through the Ukraine and on into the Black Sea. The story Ratmansky tells is set amongst cherry blossom trees that bloom in western Ukraine and in Ukraine's capital city, Kyiv. During the ballet, delicate pink blossoms fall from these trees and speckle the stage. Now, some say that these blossoms symbolize love and brides, though according to the Kyiv Post, a very popular Ukrainian newspaper, they represent impermanence. In either case, whether they're brides or impermanence, love or impermanence, they are perfectly placed in this story about the often fraught nature of love. In On the Dnipro, Sergei is a Ukrainian soldier who has come home from fighting in the First World War. He discovers he is in love with Olga, who returns his love. But theirs is no simple story, because each of them is engaged to someone else. Sergei and Olga long to be together, but for that to happen, the yearnings of their fiancés must be dashed. And so this is a ballet about emotional turmoil and the pain engendered when people find themselves trapped and consumed by conflicting desires, imperatives, and needs. Ratmansky makes this psychological conundrum visible as these characters reveal their hopes, fears, fury, and anguish through the language of classical ballet. For instance, as Sergei and Olga dance, you'll see them execute changes of direction, going this way, turning that way, as they're torn between promises they once made and the future they fervently desire. Ratmansky's choreography has such a lovely flow that we in the audience never see or suspect how challenging it is for the dancers. As ABT's Calvin World III has said, it pushes you beyond what you think or expect your body can do. But while that physical aspect of dance delights and enthralls us, what is most inspiriting about the works of Alexei Ratmansky and Alonzo is that they require dancers to commit to what they dance, not only with their bodies, but with their minds and their hearts. That is what dance artists do, and in the course of doing it, they make every shade of emotion visible. They take amorphous feelings and give them physical form. We see their joy, their despair, their hope, their fear, their longing. And in that sense, dancers are avatars of the human soul and spirit. And it is this, above all, that makes watching them so profoundly fulfilling and mesmeric. Thank you for being here and joining me for Behind the Ballet.